A professor from a prestigious college entered a confession booth, compelled to confess his recent misdeed to a priest. Father, my wife has been away for several weeks, he began hesitantly, and today, after my class, an incredibly beautiful and strikingly slender student approached me, inviting me to her dorm room to help review her work. I know it's wrong, and I've never faced such temptation before, but she was alluring and so unrestrained. To my own amazement, I agreed to go with her. I felt powerless, he continued. Eventually, we became intimate. You know, physically involved. Then, unexpectedly, her roommate walked in on us, and instead of being shocked or leaving, she chose to join us. All three of us. Well, you can imagine. The priest let out a deep breath, stressing that breaking marriage vows is a grave sin, and he wasn't certain if he could prescribe an appropriate penance for such a serious transgression. I apologize, Father, the professor replied. I should have mentioned that I'm neither Catholic nor Jewish, so I don't actually need your absolution. Confused, the priest asked, Then why are you confessing this to me? With a grin, the professor replied, Are you kidding? This story is too juicy not to share. I'm telling everyone. In a charming little town filled with rumors and stories, there was a famous brothel that gained wide fame. Men from different walks of life and regions often came here, attracted by the stories they heard. On an ordinary evening, one gentleman decided that it was time to get to know this place personally, and set off with excited curiosity and high expectations. When he entered, he was presented with a wide selection, and each woman was charming in her own way. His gaze settled on a particular woman, feeling an undeniable attraction, and without further delay he chose her for the evening entertainment. As required by protocol, an advance payment was required, so he handed her $200 as a small payment for the adventure he was expecting. They went to a private room, a secluded place where they could do their secret business. While they were getting ready, the gentleman was impatiently waiting for the woman to show her striking blue negligee. However, just at the moment when the atmosphere was heated to the limit, a sudden shrill alarm broke the previous calm of the establishment. It was the shrill wail of a fire alarm demanding immediate attention and action. In the ensuing chaos, the woman, overcome with obvious panic, hurriedly grabbed $200 and ran out of the room, leaving the man confused and disbelieving. Recovering quickly, he realized that he had to act quickly. He dressed clumsily and threw himself into a mad pursuit of a woman. He was determined to return either the money he had so easily parted with or the experience he had been promised. His search led him through the smoky corridors of the brothel, where the air was saturated with fumes, which worsened visibility and made it difficult to breathe. Realizing the seriousness of the situation and the potential danger, he put his safety at the forefront and headed straight for the exit. Despite the chaos, he clung to the hope of finding a woman outside. Gasping for fresh air, he surfaced and found firefighters fighting a fierce battle with the flames that threatened to engulf the building. It was a scene of organized chaos where professionals worked hard. Noticing the firefighter stopped for a moment, the man approached him, still catching his breath. He managed to ask, "Excuse me, sir, maybe in the middle of all this, did you happen to see a very attractive blonde in a blue negligee clutching $200 in her hand?" The firefighter, concerned about the tense situation, replied after a short pause, "No, I have not met anyone matching this description." The man, not at all embarrassed, said, "Well, if you happen to see her later, use her. It's already been paid for." Once there lived a farmer with daughters numbering 5, each one anticipating their very first date to arrive. Their boyfriends all assured him, trying to be witty, that if he didn't approve, he'd use his gun. What a pity. So the first young man arrived and knocked on the door with grace. "Hello," he said. "I'm Teddy, here to see your daughter, Betty, in this place. We're a couple steady and looking for a charming space to dine at a restaurant, enjoy some spaghetti's embrace." The farmer consented with a nod on his face. "Indeed, she's ready," he declared. Teddy and Betty left in their own embrace. Then the second suitor knocked, polite and without haste. My name is Joe, he stated. I'm here to see Flo. Her beauty I can't replace. We're off to the movies for an exciting cinematic chase. May we go? He asked, his hopes afloat and in place. Yes, the farmer replied. It's a lovely base. So Joe and Flo departed to enjoy the film's embrace. The third young man arrived, the smile on his face. Hello, he greeted. I'm Nate, here for a date with Kate in this space. We're off to the roller rink to whirl and to pace, skating our way through the night's embrace. Yes, the farmer nodded, it's a fun-filled case. Off went Nate and Kate to enjoy their rhythmic embrace. The fourth gentleman appeared, dressed up with grace. Hi, he said. I'm Lance, here to dance with Nance, without a grimace. We're attending a high school event, themed with Parisian grace, a night to remember, he stated, his excitement encased. Yes, the farmer agreed. It's a romantic race. Lance and Nance departed, ready for the dance's embrace. Then the fifth fellow knocked, confidence on his face. Hello, he greeted. I'm Chuck, and I'm in luck, or so I embrace. I'm here to take your daughter with no need to chase. May we go together? He asked, his voice in its own space. The farmer acted swiftly, grabbed his gun with no grace, and poor Chuck would no longer be part of the dating chase. If this story weren't rhymed, his fate would be a different case. A gorilla passed away at the zoo right before it opens for the day. It was the only gorilla in the zoo since they weren't a very profitable creature. However, the gorilla was very popular, and the zoo couldn't afford to open without it. The zoo manager faced a dilemma and needed a quick solution. He approached one of his employees with an unusual offer. He asked the employee if they'd be willing to wear a gorilla suit and entertain the visitors for an extra $100 a day until they found a suitable replacement. The employee, perhaps motivated by the extra income or just a sense of adventure, agreed to the unusual proposition. They promptly donned the gorilla suit and took their place in the gorilla enclosure. When the zoo opened, the crowd was delighted to see the gorilla back in action. People from all over came to witness this bizarre spectacle. However, as a few weeks passed, the novelty began to wear off. The zoo needed a new stunt to rekindle the visitors' interest. So the employee in the gorilla suit decided to up the ante. They climbed up the bars of the enclosure, hanging above the lion's cage, performing daring stunts and swings. The audience was stunned and amazed by this audacious performance. The gorilla impersonator had successfully brought back the excitement. But then, something unexpected happened. The man's grip failed, and he tumbled into the lion's cage, immediately realizing the perilous situation he was in. Terrified for his life, he screamed, "Help! Help!" Panic began to set in as the man found himself surrounded by lions in the enclosure. It seemed like his performance had taken an unintended turn for the worse. Suddenly, one of the lions sneaked up behind him, and in a low growl whispered in his ear, "Shut the heck up, or you're going to get both of us fired." In a remote pasture, a shepherd diligently tends to his flock of sheep when suddenly a shiny red BMW makes its grand entrance. Behind the wheel is a young man adorned in an impeccable Armani suit, luxurious Ferragamo shoes, and polarized sunglasses. With a sense of arrogance, the driver leans out of the car window and propositions the shepherd, "My good shepherd, if I can accurately determine the precise count of sheep within your flock, would you in turn grant me one as a reward?" The shepherd gazes at this well-dressed stranger, contemplating the offer, and eventually consents to the challenge. In a show of technological prowess, the driver proceeds to connect his cell phone to a laptop, linking it to a GPS device. He initiates a remote body heat scan of the entire area, sending emails and engrossing himself in an intricate process. After a series of calculations, he generates a comprehensive 100-page report from the portable printer resting in his glove compartment. With a triumphant grin, he turns to the shepherd and proclaims, "You have precisely 1,478 sheep in your flock." The shepherd, seemingly unfazed, responds, "Indeed, your feat is impressive. As promised, you are entitled to select one sheep from my flock. The man chooses one of the animals and loads it into his luxurious car. The shepherd, however, has one more trick up his sleeve, as he inquires, "Would you be willing to engage in a challenge, my dear guest? If I can accurately discern the nature of your profession, would you kindly return my four-legged companion?" The young man, intrigued by this turn of events, eagerly agrees, "You have piqued my curiosity. Go ahead, take your guess." The shepherd delivers his verdict without hesitation. "You, dear sir, are a McKinsey consultant." In astonishment, the man responds, "You've hit the nail on the head. How on earth did you come to such a conclusion?" The shepherd grins and elaborates. "It was no mere guess, for I have observed your actions closely. You ventured uninvited into my pasture, seeking compensation for knowledge I already possessed. You answered inquiries I had not even posed, demonstrating an ignorance of my trade. Now, if you would be so kind, I kindly request the return of my loyal canine companion."